Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by
Big bucks are not hard to come by. Ask these hunters who have one thing in common. No, we're not talking about big smiles on their faces. All these hunters learn the secret of how to grow big antlers. A product that requires no planning. A product that's easy to use and is guaranteed to grow buck's antlers to their full potential. It all starts here with the brand Lucky Buck. Guaranteed to grow bigger bone or your money back.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We've got really kind of a cool episode this week. We're going to start with some of the best salmon fishing footage I think we've probably ever had. It's actually from the Betsy River. The fish that are in the rivers right now are fresh, they're silver, and they are jumping out of the water like you can't believe. You won't want to miss that story. Then after that, we're going to talk crossbows. On last week's show, we did kind of a crossbow review where we showed you just a few of the new crossbows that are on the market. Well, this week we're going to show you some of the new broadheads and accessories for crossbows. So if you're a crossbow hunter, you'll want to maybe take a peek at that. And then we're going to end this week's show by showing you something that really we don't want to. Those are failed fishing trips. I recently was both in Frankfort and Beaver Island. The fishing did not go as planned. We're going to show you just a few minutes on those stories and kind of what went into those, because those are some really neat places here in our state. So lots of good stuff on this week's program. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors. Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Greenstone Farm Credit Services, making recreational land ownership possible across Michigan and northeast Wisconsin. Begin your land financing journey at one of Greenstone's 37 locations or visit greenstonefcs.com. By Meijer, a destination for hunting, fishing, and camping. From bug spray and tents to GPS and gas, Meijer has nearly everything you need to take on nature and get you there. Meijer. By G5 Outdoors, makers of the Quest and Prime bows. Manufactured and designed in Memphis, Michigan, G5 offers archery bows, broadheads, and accessories. On the web at g5outdoors.com. By Country Smokehouse, offering a variety of meat products. Country Smokehouse is located 3 miles south of I-69 on M53, just south of Imlay City. Country Smokehouse is a meat processor, a butcher, and a destination for sportsmen.
Hi, I'm Jordan Brown, and for this week's story, I'm up here in Frankfort getting ready to enjoy a beautiful sunset here on Lake Michigan. And tomorrow morning, we'll be hitting the Betsy River in search of a few salmon.
Well, this morning we're going to float down we're in the upper Betsy right now, and it's right in the middle of August. We had a couple really cold nights here. It's been down in the 40s, and there's some nice fresh silver salmon in here. And most of them are all just holed up now in some of the deep sand holes.
Well, it didn't take long to find the fish. The very first hole we came to was loaded with fresh salmon, and only a couple of casts in, we had our first hookup.
Oh, he's trying to get me upstream with those logs. I was gonna say. Oh, here he comes. That worked out well. Still a little silver to them. That's a big old female. They are running a little bigger this year, but that one's not giant size for a king. There's been a lot of talk about the fish in Lake Michigan, lack of bait fish, maybe someday a collapse of Lake Michigan salmon. And currently the Chinooks and the cohos in Lake Michigan are bigger this year. They're looking very healthy. Our numbers, I guess they say in the lake, are down slightly, but so far when it comes to healthy looking salmon, they're looking just wonderful. And we've seen some fish upwards to 25 pounds in the river.
The plan was to hit one hole for a while and then continue downstream, but with our first hole having so many fish in it, it made it pretty hard to leave, especially not knowing if we would find another pot of fish. Fishing this time of year can be very hit or miss, with the majority of fish pool up in just a couple of holes throughout the river.
Yeah, I mean right now you're finding silverfish and some got a little color to them, but they've just come in from Lake Michigan. What they're doing is these fish aren't anywhere near ready to spawn yet, and they're moving in and they're finding big deep sand holes to sit in and wait a couple weeks until they're ready to spawn. That's the big thing about August salmon fishing, and not just August but in September, is these kings, they pool up in big numbers. A lot of the river's not holding a lot of fish. The fish are very fresh, and later on in the year a lot of these fish are spawning. They won't bite. There's a lot of snagging done, there's a lot of illegal fishing done, and some ugliness done. And right now you'll foul hook some fish. They don't all bite great, and that can be kind of, the bite can be up and down, but it gives you the opportunity for some really nice kings to bite it and take a fly. Real nice king. About the same size as that last one. Took that big old leech though. Yeah, right now, I mean, you get these fish that just came in from the lake. A lot of these fish are still silver this year. And I mean, it's still only the middle of August. And so a lot of these, and they hole up in these sand holes, and you can get some of these kings that'll bite quite well. At times we'll go to big bait fish streamers that we might try later on, but just a nice big egg-sucking leech is ideal. Just a little bit of weight. We got a rig set up like that with, we're down to 10-pound Maxima and a couple little BB shots.
Well, we found a real nice pot of fish. Hooked probably 6 or 7. Landed 2, which isn't a bad percentage for here. Fish are running a lot bigger this year. Pretty silver, not mint silver. Some fresh fish we're hoping came in last night with the cold weather and the wind last night, so we'll see what happens.
Kelly spends a good portion of the fall on the Betsy, but that's not the only river worth fishing this time of year. In fact, most of the western Michigan rivers offer exceptional fishing in late August and throughout September.
The PM, the Little Manistee, the Big Manistee, a lot of these cool water streams in western Michigan get these early kings, and August can be a little unpredictable. People want to know what they can find, and a lot of the river, as we saw today, is not holding fish, but then you can find some big numbers in certain spots. Biggest thing about August is floating the rivers or covering a lot of water, learning the deep sand holes and staying out of that spawning gravel, because that's not where those fish are. Everybody talks about the cool water and stuff. It's some good hard north winds in Lake Michigan. North winds are almost more important than anything because that can bring cool water to the shoreline, and that's what triggers these fish to come up. Just got one big salmon here. Whoa! Oh! Oh,
He got a little energy at the end.
he cut the whole thing off.
The landing percentage on early river salmon is quite low, but one thing's for sure, if you do manage to hook into one of these fish, you're in for one of the best fights a Michigan angler can experience.
the unique thing about right now is the fish are fresh. They're not spawning. The Chinooks and cohos, they die after they spawn. And right now these fish are nice and fresh, and the big appeal is the fight that they give. There is a little bit of downside. They don't always bite great. It's up and down depending on the day and the conditions. Some of these big pools of fish, sometimes some will bite great and others won't. But the big appeal is the Chinook's one of the best fighting fish in Michigan.
After spending most of the day fishing one hole, we finally decided to head downstream, and the lack of fish made our decision to stay put most of the morning look like a good one.
The best case scenario is to hit a spot for an hour or so and then move on to the next one. What happens to a person like myself as a river guide or anybody floating is when there's not that many fish around and it's very early, sometimes you hate to leave big pods of fish, and then sometimes the bite gets bad. And that's what happened today. Then we hope for some more, but ones and twos and in small little groups out in the open are very non-productive this year. A lot of times the bite is not good and they're very skittish and very spooky.
Salmon fishing this time of the year allows anglers the opportunity at one of the best fighting fish we have here in Michigan, and the ability to do so in somewhat comfortable weather. Special thanks to Kelly Newman for letting me tag along on this beautiful August day here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Okay, so we've swapped out some gear here, and now we're going to look at broadheads. Now, again, we're here with Dave Thomas from Bowhunter Planet. Dave tests all this stuff. And as you're looking for a head for a crossbow, Dave, what are some things guys should be thinking through? Is it very similar to picking out a head for your regular vertical bow? Much different? What's your take on that?
I would say that most of the broadheads you're going to find for crossbow have a tendency to shoot very straight and very accurate. We've tested tons of different broadheads, and to be honest, we never really see much of a difference with a crossbow. Okay. A lot of them have to do with the power of a crossbow. Shooting the bolt is just a lot more power than like a compound bow. Yeah. So a lot of them are going to fly straight and true because that much power comes into it.
So if you've been hunting your whole life with a Thunderhead and you want to stick with that, you could just swap it right over and you're good to go. Because most fixed are going to fly pretty similar.
I would say they're going to fly very similar. I would say, I would shoot one or two first to make sure you feel comfortable with it. Most of the companies do offer a crossbow model, so I recommend getting that model first. But if there's something you really like and you want to stick with it, I would just recommend shooting some of your old ones to make sure it's good to go, and then go ahead and switch to a new pack.
And before we get into the specific heads, I think the one thing that I've seen, and guys that know a lot more about it than me, 20 yards, 30 yards, the heads seem to all perform roughly about the same. The flight characteristics are the same. When you get to 40 and 50, and really they don't recommend you shooting beyond that, but they can accurately, but it's that 40, 50, those longer yardages where you really start to see if it's flying true. Is that correct?
I would agree 100% with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, what are some of the heads here that you like? And you got a new one here too.
Yeah, the newest one this year is the Raven. This head is a vicious looking head. Mm-hmm. These guys are a new company, and the head performs really well with a compound and a crossbow. We've tested with both. Okay. As you can see, when it hits, the nice part about this head, when it actually hits, you're getting 4 cuts. So it has this really nice massive head on the front. Okay. And when it hits, it has a lever action system where it's going to pop down and lock in. Okay. Like this. And so when it hits, you got the cut, and the huge cut, 2.3 inch here on these sides. Okay. So a massive hit. It flies very, very good, and it's going to do a really good blood trail. You can just tell by looking at this thing.
And that one is different, but it's similar to, one of the biggest names on the market, obviously, is the Rage head, and that's a similar type broadhead. What's the difference between the Rage and the Raven?
The Rage is different. It's got a slip cam. They call it slip cam technology. Your bolt's in the middle, it slides that way. Whereas this one's got what they call lever action. Okay. So when it hits, it comes down. You can see the bolts down here. Okay.
So again, those are the mechanical heads. Now G5, I know they make not only the Montec but also the Striker, which are basically fixed heads. And you shot these. How did these perform out of the crossbow?
I would say, overall G5 is always top notch. So when it comes to broadheads, you really can't go wrong with the G5. So okay. Montec, Striker, they always shoot as they state they will.
And the F-15, Carbon Express, another Michigan-based company, In fact, it was Jim down at MJC Archery that kind of put me onto that head. That's a very nice head, and he actually uses that. You can use it in a crossbow, you can use it in a vertical bow, and he actually uses it in a traditional setup as well because it has kind of the true two-blade type technology that really penetrates well, but it's got those little bleeder. So that's not a bad, that's not a bad option either. So okay, well now, so when it comes to you know, picking out your head, you got that. Talk me through the Lumen Arrow. We've all heard of the Lumen-Nock.
Yeah.
What's this all about?
The Lumen Arrow is a great option for the hunter or target shooter. So what they did is they have a new nock this year, and it's got more of a edge or whatever you want to call it, so that the string gets in there. So it's more of a C.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. So when you put this into your crossbow, it's going to fit real well on your arrow, so you're going to get really good contact there.
Okay, now, so that is very similar to the back end that Parker would recommend for years that you would just use for Parker, but this you can use on any crossbow.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And this bolt, the good thing about Lumen-Nock, how Lumen-Nock works is a connection.
Okay.
So there's two metal pieces on both sides of this arrow. This is a carbon shaft, and when this is pushed in, it creates a connection. Okay. And that's what lights it up. So you have to have it squared to get the connection. Gotcha. The biggest issue is a lot of arrows don't come 100% squared, and so Lumen Arrow decided to do their own so that they could provide it so it's going to work every time.
Ah, okay.
So, and their bolts are great. They're actually made by Victory Archery, so it's actually made by a really good arrow company. Lumen-Nock just does their thing, squares everything perfectly, puts their names on it, puts their amazing Lumen-Nock light on it, which gives you a whole bunch of brightness, as you can see.
Yeah. Very cool. Now, we've got a target that you guys were using to kind of shoot a lot of this stuff into. Any method of the madness in picking out a target when it comes to shooting crossbows?
You know, we shoot at the Big Shot targets this year. They're great targets. The arrows come out super easy. We enjoy doing that because a lot of targets nowadays are just extremely hard to pull the arrow out. Some of the ones we've heard of in the past, some of the brands have been very hard to pull out of. So I'd recommend highly to the user to watch videos online to watch how these arrows pull out of targets that you currently see in some of the bigger models out there. Okay. So then you can see which ones come out easy, especially with a crossbow. Yeah. A crossbow is well known to, you know, dropping arrows deep, you know, like this, and you can't get them out. You're suffering trying to get it out. So definitely recommend checking out every target you can.
And if you're looking for more information on any of the products that we've talked about today, whether that's broadheads or crossbows, or you'd like to kind of see what Dave's been up to, just real briefly, kind of what all goes on at Bowhunter Planet. If people wanted to, if they haven't been to your site before, what kind of stuff can they find there?
Bowhunter Planet is a site that hosts many shows. Our biggest thing has been creating new shows over the years. Right now, our biggest show, which you see all most of this stuff on, is Test Lab. So in Test Lab, we test all the different products, we shoot them, we show the consumer the product before they go to the store to buy it. Okay. So it gives them a huge advantage. But lately, we've created a couple hunting shows. We own Hunt Series, Bone Driven. We created the Pink Series for women so they could see their different stuff. And finally, we are finishing up this year with Crossbow Warriors, which is our latest project for crossbows.
And those are all online shows?
Correct,
okay. So if you're not watching PBS, which you should be every week, and you're not on MichiganOutofdoorsTV.com, you can head over to bowhunterplanet.com, check out all their stuff. Dave's a great guy. He's got lots of cool stuff that you've never even seen or heard of, and he's out there testing it. So Dave, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the woods, hopefully, this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you have it, some more information for you as you get ready for the upcoming archery season. If you're going to be using a crossbow, maybe some things to think about, maybe a couple new broadheads they might want to try out this year. What we're going to do now is shift gears to something that, like I said at the beginning of the show, that I really don't want to show you, and that is failed fishing trips. And we're going to kind of scrape together a few minutes on two trips that I recently was on Beaver Island, one in Frankfort, two of my favorite places in the state. And you know what, sometimes the fishing doesn't just always go as planned. Well, to get to Beaver Island, you can either take the ferry, which is about a 2.5 to 3 hour boat ride, or you can do what we're going to do, go to the Charlevoix Airport and do a 10-minute flight. So it is a beautiful day today. Wind is blowing a little bit. The forecast for tomorrow and the fishing, not good. But when you're on an island out in the middle of Lake Michigan, the one thing you never know really what's going to happen is the weather. So we're going to roll the dice and see what happens, but we're going to get in the air and get over to Beaver Island.
get to Beaver Island, you just feel a little bit more relaxed when you get there. We touched down on the grass-covered part of the airstrip, and I made my way to town to meet up with Steve Martinez and Kevin Morlock, a couple of fishing bums who have cornered the market on fly fishing this part of the state. Where do you find fishermen when the wind is blowing? You guessed it, at the local watering hole. We were gambling a bit on the weather, and on the north side of the island where I woke up, it was a calm morning. But the east side was a little bit of a different story. We were hoping to be sight fishing in the shallows for smallies and primarily carp using a fly rod, but we needed high sun and not much wind, exactly what we didn't have today.
Seems to be awful windy today.
Okay.
Yesterday was really windy. We managed back, but it was in 4-footers, and I don't really feel like
Smashing up the camera guy?
beating you to death today. So.
But the plan is to spot and stalk both carp and smallies?
Yep, carp and smallmouth today on the flats of Beaver Island here, and maybe get lucky and find a 20-incher for wants to come out and play.
Using nothing but big weighted flies, you can cast these things pretty far. But you also need to be able to cast a fish you can see, and that was the trick today. But let me tell you, the islands around Beaver Island have to be some of the most beautiful places in the state. Well, I know I will be back next summer in May and June when the peak hits for this kind of fishing. To be out in the middle of Lake Michigan in a couple feet of water casting to big fish, well, it doesn't get much better. My time on Beaver Island was fun, but not much success on fish. So a few days later found me once again in northern Michigan in the little town of Frankfort with a good buddy who I fish with every year. We had high hopes as the fishing is just starting to pick up as the salmon are starting to stage and run the rivers. The only thing we were worried about today, much like our time on Beaver Island, was the wind and the weather.
Well, Greg, what's going on here?
Well, we're at our plan B spot because it's a little more rough than we originally expected, but there is fish here, so we're gonna give it a good shot here and see if we can pull out a bunch of 4-year-old adult salmon.
Well, we dropped down in front of the breakwalls, held on, and tried to nab a few of the fish that are staging at the mouth of the Betsy River, the same river you saw earlier on this week's show. We would go in and out of the breakwalls trying to find some interested fish.
Well, we found a nice calm spot here in the inner harbor of Frankfort, and with that north wind we had a couple days ago, they're really stacked up in here pretty good. So since we can't really fish on the lake too comfortably, we're going to try in here for a few big ones.
Are there a lot of fish in here?
Yeah, from what we can see, it's pretty stacked in here, which is a good thing.
You could see the fish just stacked from top to bottom on the fish finder, but today at least they were being pretty tight-lipped. We finally, after a few hours of fishing, were able to stumble into one very nice fish. Andy Gorski from Frank's Great Outdoors was on the boat with us today and was able to finally get a fish working its way to the boat. One very nice coho was all we had to show for our efforts today. We called it earlier than we had hoped to, and we made our way for shore with our tail between our legs.
Well, this is what happens sometimes when you're doing a weekly fishing show. You don't always get what you're hoping for. In fact, this is 2 trips in a row for me now that I was on Beaver Island last week, and the weather kind of screwed us up. And here today in Frankfort, even though it looks like a beautiful, gorgeous day, which it is, it was really blowing hard this morning, and we could not really get out to where we wanted to go. We tried a few passes right around the pier heads. Didn't do any good. Still got a little bit rougher. Then we dropped in even closer, went inside the harbor there. Able to pick up one fish today, but I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes when you're battling Mother Nature. She wins a lot of the time. But today, even though the fishing wasn't that good, it was a lot of fun. Had some good friends out there, and I guess today, the fish won. Well, that's one thing I've always appreciated about Michigan Out of Doors television throughout the years, is we show you the good, the bad, and the ugly of real-world, everyday hunting and fishing here in the state of Michigan. If you're an angler, you know that not every time you hit the water are you going to have a successful day of catching fish, but we had a great time in those two stories, just didn't catch the fish, and that's kind of why we wanted to show you those two great spots here in the state of Michigan. Now, if you missed part of this week's show or last week's show, you can always check out our website at michiganoutofdoorstv.com. We have full episodes of the show there every week. We're also on Facebook every other day or so, letting you know what's going on as we're trying to bring you a brand new episode of Michigan Out of Doors every week of the year. We're also on Twitter, so you can check us out there. And join us over the next couple of weeks. We've got some brand new stuff coming, lots of good stuff happening right now in the state of Michigan. The hunting seasons are literally just weeks away, and we are excited about that. And hopefully, if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Rosie Brothers. Located in Dryden, Michigan, Rosie Brothers has been serving Michigan for over 40 years. Specializing in outdoor needs, Rosie Brothers features Kubota tractors and equipment for use in farm, home, or commercial needs. On the web at rosiebrosinc.com. By Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises of Munising, exploring Lake Superior's Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, with its sandstone cliffs, caves, waterfalls, and lighthouses. Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises on the web at picturedrocks.com. By Propane, exceptional energy. Propane retailers promote the safe use of Michigan-produced gas energy in homes, farms, and businesses across our great state. Learn more at usemichiganpropane.com. By Meijer, a destination for hunting, fishing, and camping. From bug spray and tents to GPS and gas, Meijer has nearly everything you need to take on nature and get you there. Meijer. Closed captioning is brought to you by Propane, exceptional energy. Propane retailers promote the safe use of Michigan-produced gas to outdoor enthusiasts across our great state.
That's a big fish.